welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be cooking the best damn chili recipe ever. All the ingredients and measurements are going to be down at the bottom. To begin cooking this recipe, we are going to get started cooking our meat. You can use either chicken, beef, or turkey for this recipe. I am going to be using 2.5 pounds of turkey for a healthier version. And turkey doesn't have a lot of flavor, so I am going to be adding salt, pepper, and some garlic to the meat. And you're just going to add salt and pepper to taste. You know, I didn't start measuring seasonings until I started doing videos on YouTube, honestly. I never measure my ingredients. I just put whatever I feel that I think that it needs. And I think that that's part of being a good cook, is actually doing what you feel or what makes you feel good whenever you cook. Because cooking actually, to me, comes from your soul. I think that's why they call soul food, because I feel like cooking comes from your soul. When I look at recipes, I look at the ingredients that are in the recipes, but if I feel like whenever I look at a recipe, other than baking, because with baking you have to be precise, but whenever I'm cooking or seasoning or making anything, I always put in there what I think is right, or what I feel is right. Now, when I first started cooking many years ago, I probably used to measure everything, but the better I got, the less measuring I did. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically cooking my meat. I decided to use turkey because we have been eating a lot of beef, too much beef lately, and I don't really like eating a lot of beef because I don't feel like that beef is healthy. So anytime I get an opportunity to substitute chicken or turkey in a recipe, I will do that for a healthier version. Now I am going to add my peppers and onions. And I am going to let my peppers and onions cook down. This is probably going to take about, I would say about 10 minutes before I add the rest of my ingredients. Once it starts to cook down, then we'll go ahead and add our spices in. So I am going to pause the video and let my peppers and onions cook, and I'll be back. I'm back. I think my vegetables have cooked down enough. And the next thing that we are going to add is all of our seasonings. I like to put my seasonings in at this point because I like to saute it with my meat, because it flavors the meat, and also it brings out all of the natural oils that are in the seasoning. The heat makes the oils come out because they're dried, so they'll eventually come out whenever you cook them, but I just like doing it this way. I also have some beef bouillon in here to give it beef flavor, because as I stated earlier, this is turkey that I'm cooking, and so the beef bouillon will give it the beef flavor. I also would add the beef bouillon if I were using beef. I still would add the beef bouillon. Turkey is really good for taking on the flavor of whatever it is it's being cooked in, or whatever seasonings it is. Turkey really doesn't have a taste at all, so you have to add a lot of seasoning to give turkey a taste. It'll mimic whatever seasonings you put in here, it'll mimic it. The next thing I'm doing is adding my tomato paste. I add about a half a can of tomato paste. And because tomato paste is so thick, I usually add it at this point, because once you get the liquid in here, it'll make it harder to spread it around. It will too eventually melt, but I like doing it this way as well. I'm adding green chow, and that's just 1 can of green chow. I am adding a can of fire roasted tomatoes. I love fire roasted tomatoes because they have been roasted on a fire. I just think it gives it a different flavor. The next thing that we are adding is a half of cup of white wine. We are adding a surprise ingredient, another surprise ingredient. We are adding beer. Beer changes the flavor, and the wine, the beer and wine changes the flavor of the chili mixture completely. Like, completely. And I added a whole can of beer. Oh, and I forgot to put my minced garlic in. Should have added that earlier, but I forgot. And it'll be fine because it can cook in here. We have to cook this for like an hour and 30 minutes, just as it is. And then we add the beans 30 minutes before it's done. So this is total time this is supposed to cook is 2 hours. We are also supposed to add some fresh tomatoes. I only put like a half a can in there because my pot is about to overflow. You can add a whole can of crushed tomatoes, the 28-ounce one, if you have enough room, but I don't have enough room, so I'm only adding half. I am going to add some water to this as well. While it's cooking, I'm also going to be coming back and checking to see if it needs more seasoning or if there's anything else like I need to add. I didn't add a lot of salt, so I may have to add more salt and pepper. I do have a couple of more ingredients I want to put in here. I have some brown sugar. And right now I'm just adding like a handful of brown sugar because I already know this is going to be bitter. I like using brown sugar because brown sugar has molasses in it. It gives it like a different taste than just using regular sugar. If it needs more brown sugar later, I will add more brown sugar later. Oh, and also, we have to add bay leaves. So I think I'm going to add 3 bay leaves to this. Anytime you cook something on the stove that cooks for a long period of time, 2 hours, say, or just anything that cooks for a long period of time, I always add a bay leaf because it deepens the flavor of your stew, of your soup, whatever it is that you are cooking. And I think that is, oh, and also, forgot about this, I am adding 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And that is really all of my ingredients. Like I said, everything will be listed down below. I will be back to you once this cooks for like an hour and 30 minutes, and the last thing that we will add is our beans, and then we'll let it cook for about 30 minutes more, and then your chili recipe will be done. Bag and my chili is now done, and I am going to go ahead and add the final ingredient, which is the beans. Make sure that you do rinse these beans off. You don't want the soup portion of the beans, you just want the beans itself, so make sure you rinse that off. This soup is spicy, so if you like less spice, I would suggest that you use less chili. The original recipe is 1/4 cup of chili. I would suggest, if you want it less spicy, to use 1/3 cup chili. And I would suggest maybe using a half of poblano because a poblano is spicy. And then I would also suggest using no green child peppers. But this recipe right here is really spicy. If you you don't like spicy foods, just know that you can coordinate this chili to your taste. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. Let me know if you do give this recipe a try, and leave me a comment down in the comment section down below. And be sure to check out my other videos as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope everybody have